This video is not about building a magnificent dining table or an epoxy river pour, but instead a humble coffee table. This time, for the first time, on the Mighty Mini Workshop. Here you'll see me tossing up the lumber onto the racks. Since we're using 2x4s, I think that it's imperative that we let it acclimate to the environment. That way we don't get any of the twisting and bowing that comes with 2x4s. Acclimated for a couple of weeks, we'll go ahead and start breaking down our material. Now, Thomas Edison has said, many of life's failures are of the people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. We'll touch on that quote more throughout the build. Gotta make sure we don't lose that arbor nut. Now let's go ahead and rip down these 2x4s so we can get rid of those ugly roundovers. With that, you're going to be left with a couple of paint stirrers, or in our case, scraps. Now let's go ahead and sort through our 2x2s here, figuring out which ones are going to be our legs. Let's grab our jack and then head over to the workbench. Now let's go ahead and watch a little bit of hand plane action here. Get rid of those ugly saw marks that we have left over from the table saw. Now, the client for this coffee table I've actually known for some time now. I known him before when I actually used to sell furniture. Now he came to me with an idea. He envisioned a coffee table, but really it was more of a tribute. Although this was a budget build, we're going to do our best to make it look like it wasn't made out of 2x4s. Those planed down, we'll go ahead and hit them with some 180 sandpaper real quick. Now, my client lost his family a few years ago in a tragic house fire. This table is meant for them. Now these stretchers needed a little persuasion to keep flat. Dog holes for the win. Although this is my first video, you may notice things changing around the shop. Now before you yell at me, yes, we're going to be using pocket holes on this build. I picked up the 720 just so we can use it on this build, and by God did that make that fast. Little block plane action here so we can soften up the edges. Take a look at that little tinder bundle there. Now keen viewers may have noticed the shop getting progressively emptier, screw holes being filled and trash cans overfilling. I found in every build, there is always one. Like Bob Ross has said, a happy little accident. Here I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with these stretchers to make them look a little bit more interesting. Right there. Cut right through the pocket hole. Now, for whatever reason, I thought cutting off the corners would be a great idea, but luckily I had some extra parts I had milled up. I think it's safe to say we are not cutting off the corners. Let's go ahead and focus on the tabletop now. I picked up this 2-foot by 8-foot edge glued pine board. This is going to function for both the top and the bottom here. Now I've just been totally enamored with this Ryobi Track Saw. If you're in the Ryobi line, pick one up. Pay no mind to me having a little fun with the scraps. I always seem to be losing my block paint. There she is. You're going to take a minute and soften up the edges here, putting a little under bevel onto the tabletop, and then we're going to be adding a round over to the top of it. If it wasn't apparent, due to some unforeseen circumstances, I would be moving out of this shop space. I'd spent so much time growing and building my business in this space, and although it has little to compare with what my client has been through, I think it helped me grasp the importance of what this meant to him. Here you just saw me cut some dados in these stretchers as well as some stop chamfers. I had seen this picture here in one of the Facebook groups that I follow, and with this deco design I had found that this would be a better option than my earlier mistake of cutting off the corners. With these reference lines marked in, we'll go ahead and start cutting the stopped chamfers to give the legs a little bit more of a flare. And after giving all the pieces a quick once over with the sander, we'll go ahead and lay down these scrap pieces of 1/2-inch plywood for our reveal. At this point throughout the build, I had really felt it sink in that all the time I had put into making this shop home was for nothing. After lathering up the joints with some glue, we'll go ahead and add some clamping pressure. Oh wait, clamps don't fit. Luckily, I ended up having large clamps within arm's reach. Do you guys keep straws in your toolbox? I do. Have you tried this straw trick for getting the glue out of the seams? Phenomenal. Now that the glue has had about 15 minutes to set, we'll start driving in our screws. I ended up switching to my drill here just because I feel like I get a little bit more control than my impact driver, although my impact driver sits handy in my tool cart. Here you can see a good look at the accent wall that I had put up, that I had initially planned on being the backdrop of most of my videos. Here's a mark of a good woodworker. Always add a little chamfer on the bottom of the legs, that way the legs don't splinter if they're ever dragged around the bottom of the floor. Now, if you would like to help support the channel, take a look at these MightyBitClips. I 3D print each one, and they are custom fit to a particular drill, driver, and brand. I'll go ahead and link the Etsy down in the description. Here you'll see me install these L brackets. I find that they do a very good job of holding down the tabletop, just like your figure 8 fastener or Z clips. Here you'll be able to see how they cinch down the tabletop but still allow for any wood movement that may happen. Initially, I was just going to add another board along the bottom, but instead I decided to go with slats, just so we can add a little bit more of that deco design that I had seen with that other picture. After selling many of my tools and looking at storage units, I had really felt like this was my last hurrah. I had every intention on making these videos in this shop. Just like before with my handy number 5, we'll go ahead and get rid of these saw marks that were left over from the table saw. And for consistency, we'll go ahead and add a slight chamfer to each one of these. Off camera, I went ahead and used a bandsaw to cut out the little notches on either end of these slats. Here in a little bit, you're going to get a glimpse of the new shop. It would have been so easy for any of us to just throw in the towel. Hell, I almost did. I had felt like I had ran out of time, but with the help of my friends and family, I was able to find this shop. Now to do what really made this table, the engraving. Now, if you've been considering a desktop laser, I would really recommend this one. I have an affiliate link down in the description if you want to take a look. I get a little kickback from that, and of course this would help going to making the new shop. I'm sure you've noticed by now I'm just as much a storyteller as I am a woodworker. Stick around if you care to see any of my future builds in the new shop. Now back to Thomas Edison. I've carried that quote with me for the entirety of this project. And what it's left me with is this: if there is time to turn things around. Progress is a hard thing to figure, especially when you can't see that progress. This isn't climbing a mountain. Now, this shop isn't spectacular, but it gave me the opportunity to both finish this build and tell his story. I hope you choose to stick with me and see what this new shop has in store. With that being said, cue the shots of the project that meant so much.